Every day as we walk or jog along the roads of the country, every day as we drive on our way to work past homes built hundreds of years ago, as we sit in worship in our churches, do we ever imagine coming face to face with the myths and legends associated with these places?
Over the years, stories of sightings stranger than reality have emerged from the quaint houses and rolling fields of the Washington County area. These stories, derived from the history of this area, were once told to eager audiences as forms of entertainment by storytellers. But now, these stories have been passed on to historians as a verbal record of the past. These stories date back to when Washington County was part of the western frontier and European settlers began making this area their home.
The legends and myths of Washington County are all around us. They give us insight into what life was like long ago. It's some of these legends that we'll explore in this program. We'll visit the home of the founder of the city of Hagerstown, as well as the city itself. Then we'll head to South Mountain, near Boonesboro, to see the areas affected by the first battle of the Civil War fought on Union soil. It's all next on Legends. Coming up next, we'll visit the home of Jonathan Hager, the founder of the city of Hagerstown. The Jonathan Hager House has had many residents since it was built in the late 1700s. It's seen many events, and many of those have been long forgotten. Next, we'll tell you which of them haven't. We start our program at the very beginning of Hagerstown itself. The Jonathan Hager House is one of the area's oldest landmarks, and it sits here in Hagerstown City Park.
But in the 1700s, this part of Hagerstown looked much different than we see it now.
Well, Jonathan Hager bought a 200-acre tract from a man named Daniel Delaney in June of 1739, and we know this because of land records. Daniel Delaney eventually would be the founder of Frederick, Maryland, and he had acquired some 10,000 acres here in the Cumberland Valley around 1712. This house is built over two springs. Perhaps there was someone here already using the spring water as their source, but as far as this massive stone dwelling goes, no, I'm sure this was the first major structure at this site.
Jonathan Hager wasn't the first settler in this area. Proof of about 100 others before Hager has been found in land deed records. In fact, there were enough settlers in the area to support a grist mill, which was built in 1738, just a mile from Jonathan Hager's home. Soon after purchasing the land, Hager fell in love.
Jonathan Hager would eventually marry a neighbor by the name of Elizabeth Kirshner in the year 1740, and that's the year after he built the house. So it's always been believed that Hager gave her this house as a sort of a wedding present. Now, the Kirshner family had already arrived in America in 1731, so they were already established here. I don't believe we know exactly when they came to this particular part of what is now Washington County, Maryland. I think you'd have to believe that Hager was probably already out here surveying land, determining what land to buy, and run into the people who were already living out here. And at some point, certainly prior to the building of the house, he'd probably already met the young Elizabeth Kirshner.
Hager lived in the house until 1745, when he sold it to a man named Jacob Rohr. Jacob and his family lived here until 1758, when his son, also named Jacob, inherited the land and the house.
The land and the house changed ownership many times over the years, but has looked virtually the same throughout.
The Hager house was originally built as a 1.5-story house, probably by Hager himself. The full second floor and the attic were all added at a later point in time. It has been argued whether Hager put the addition on or whether another owner, probably one of the Roars, put the addition on, the elevation that is. We'll probably never factually know when this occurred. I personally don't believe that Hager had a full 2.5-story house, but did have the 1.5 stories. We do believe that the elevation to the house was done sometime prior to 1800. My own opinion is that the second Jacob Roar put the elevation on because he starts having quite a number of children in the 1770s, and I think he just needed the additional space. Other than that, that's the only really structural change to this house. This house has retained its integrity. The walls are all in the same place. The only thing that people have done over the years is what I will call cosmetic changes, where they had to put on the new roof, new windows, and new trim, new floorboards, those kinds of things.
Today, the house stands as a memorial to Jonathan Hager and the German heritage he brought to Hagerstown. It holds